Are you an immigrant looking for a better recipe for living your ultimate American dream journey? Did you come to America to escape persecution? Or as a tourist, a student, for employment, and found America a welcoming place? Or did you make a conscious decision to relocate for a new experience and opportunities? Whatever the case, you have a story. Are you ready to tell yours and have it recorded in the pages of history for your posterity and the world? Was your decision to live in America the best decision you've ever made? These stories and more on this podcast dedicated to you, the modern explorers to America. We feature amazing navigators weekly to share their story, their journey, their challenges and successes, with one goal of helping you to fast track and live your best American dream journey. So what's your navigating story? And now, here is your host, Bassey Simon, with this episode's featured guest, ready to tell their navigating story.
Hello, Nadvigators. Bassey Simon here with another fascinating navigating story of Liliana Rogers, who finally jumped from an airplane in June 2017 to conquer her fear of heights that paralyzed her for over 25 years. Who is Liliana Rogers? Liliana Rogers was born in Colombia to a middle-class family. She was always eager to travel the world since she was a little girl, and that opportunity came when she was offered an HB1 visa to work as a software engineer with a Texas company. Although that line of work was great, she always knew she could be more. Today, Liliana is living her American dream as a transformational life consultant with a fun, spiritual Latin twist. She's well known for having a big zest for life and be all over the place. She wants to help those who have lost passion for life to love themselves again. Now, Liliana, take the navigators through this transformational journey of yours and fill in the gaps about your life that we missed.
Okay. So I'm from Colombia, like you said. I love to travel. I have always loved to travel, and I have always felt like that I was in the wrong place since I was a little girl, and I always wanted to see the world. So I'm a software engineer. That's what I did. I went to college and I got a degree in software engineering. And I was in Colombia and I had a really good job. Actually, I was working for a petroleum company. I was working for Occidental Petroleum Company, which was pretty good. But I always felt like I wanted to go places. So I came to the States around 1994, and just to learn English. And then I decided, I just want to live here. So I went back to Colombia and I started going to the different embassies to see where could I go legally, what country could I go legally. And my first choice was Canada. So I applied for a visa in Canada and I got a green card to go to Canada. And like 2 months before, a friend told me, hey, why don't you apply for a job in the States? And I said, well, why not? So I applied and I got a job offer here in the United States with a working visa. So I had a green card in Canada, but no job, and an HB1 visa in the States. So I decided to come here with a company sponsoring me. And that was in 1996 when I came. And I was originally in Texas. I live in Dallas, Fort Worth for 7 months. That was my first assignment. My assignment was like the ideal job for me because it was to travel around the country.
Right.
Which was for a single woman that loves to travel. It was just ideal. So I was in Texas for 7 months. And then they sent me to California, to Orange County. And at the time, I met who would become my ex-husband and ex-husband. So I decided that I didn't want to leave California, and I stay in California since then. So I've been in California for 21 years, roughly 22 years. It's been interesting, it's been challenging, it's been rewarding. I have two kids now. My son is 16, almost 17, and my daughter is 13. So obviously my life now is here. I wouldn't go back to Colombia because just that's where my life is here now. So then let's say 3 years ago, I decided that I didn't want to do more software engineering, that there was more in life for me, that I had a different purpose. So I switched my career, and last year I started doing life coaching, and that's what I am right now.
Wow, that is amazing. But something I picked up from your intro, though, is that I think in '96, there were not so many women in the field of software engineering. So you were somewhat ahead of your time, isn't it?
I would say probably the ratio was 70 men, 30% women.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was very unique thing. Is that something that gave you an edge to be able to get H-1B visa to come here, or you were just exceptional?
Both.
Both. Okay. That's great.
I think that where you study definitely decides a lot your luck, right? I mean, right. Engineering or software engineering is a career that 20 years ago was very good. Mm-hmm. It's the same that is now, and the same that it will be in 20 years, because right. Computers are not going away.
That's true.
It's a career that is also universal. Like you can be a doctor, but to move to a different country, you have to kind of start again.
Right.
With computers, you can go anywhere in the world and they will take you, because there's a big demand. There's a high demand.
That is amazing. Okay, so you came with the H-1B visa, mm-hmm. and you landed in Texas. I happen to be in Texas, so I'm very close to where you landed. You worked here for 7 months, and then you relocated to California. Mm-hmm. Now, so what were some of I know you were sponsored, so you didn't have to deal with some of the things that maybe most immigrants would deal with. If you didn't have work permit. But were there some things that were challenging to you when you first came, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Well, I was thinking about that this morning. One of the big challenges for me, and this is just personal, I hate making phone calls. I don't like the phone. And, this country, everything is by phone, right? You need to pay the rent. You need to pay utilities, especially in '96, everything was phone driven. So that was a challenge for me, because I would rather go personally than make a phone call. But here, everything was phone calls. Right. And two, in my second language. So when I moved to Texas, people in Texas have an accent. So for me, it was like they're speaking a different language. This is not English. So that was, I kind of have to start, a little bit again, learning English in Texas. Wow. So that was a little bit of a challenge.
Right. So at this time, you dealt with the language situation, but your job actually was useful because you didn't have to have a whole lot of interaction with people, because you were usually in the back office doing all kind of things with the computers. So you didn't have to interact a lot.
Well, actually, I did have to, because I had to go to a lot of meetings.
Okay.
To gather requirements and talk to the users and, define what they need or what they wanted. So it was a lot of interaction. Actually.
Okay. So that challenge of English there, I know you came before to study English from Colombia before you get a job here. Mm-hmm. You were here initially for that, and then the friend suggested to try to find a job here. So that obstacle was not limiting for you, and you had to do things to overcome it.
Mhm.
Did you have to take extra classes, and what did you have to do? Did you study more? Did you just learn to speak, or you just let
Yes,
it flow naturally?
just learn as I went. I mean, it's not that I didn't speak. I mean, I have it, but it was probably more, it's more like about confidence, that
Okay.
okay, just be confident to do it, and don't let that stop me,
Uh-huh.
So, like right now, I know I have an accent, and I know it will never go away. So it's how it is, right? So just
As a
be okay
as
with it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the episode I did this morning, I was talking about this topic about accents, that everybody do have accents, and if we start to feel like because we have an accent, then that means we are not doing okay. That's not true. I think what I was talking about in this morning episode was more of how can we make ourselves more understandable. Okay, what are the things that we have to do so that we can be understood. I know everybody have an accent. If you talk to somebody from the northeast of the United States, they speak totally different from Texas Southern accent, as you
Mhm.
rightly said, that you've experienced it. Or you talk to somebody in Louisiana or in Alabama, they all have different variations of. It's still English, but it's the way they sound and make some words. So sometimes it's different. So for new navigators, when people come, so your take on this is that how are you going to help people? How do you tell these people that are just coming with the challenge of maybe a language like you had? What can you tell them? What can they do about it? I mean, is there something they can do? Are there things that you did that help you to grow that confidence that you can actually communicate better?
Well, I think that for me, and this is my personal preference. I mean, when I go to a country, I I came here because I wanted to learn the culture. I wanted to learn the language.
Yeah.
So even though I'm very proud of where I'm coming from, I'm very proud of my roots. I'm here. So I'm going to learn the language, and I'm going to learn the culture. And I'm not expecting the government to change everything to Spanish because I don't
Right.
understand. So
Right.
I didn't listen to TV in Spanish. So that would be my first thing, keep your roots, be proud of it, but you are here. So the TV, radio, try to stay away from the people that want to speak to you in your first language. I mean, because you need the practice, and if you don't do it, you will never get better. So I really immerse myself in the environment,
Mhm.
with books. I didn't buy books in Spanish. I mean, everything was English, books, TV, everything around me was in English. So that's what you get more confident, because then your ear gets used to the language, and you start understanding more. That's one part. So the more that you practice, the more comfortable are you gonna be using it.
Right.
And two, it's just self confidence, right? Just love yourself and say how it is, and remember, this is what a lot of people tell me: accents are sexy, accents are unique. so
Yeah.
so that's something that make us unique as we
Yeah.
are. So
That is so true. That is so true. Um, I think you hit on something there that is very important about um, just immerse yourself in the environment that you are, because sometimes people find themselves just it's not that you're going to do away with your culture, your people. You will still do those things, but if you want to be a good member of the society, you want to be really move forward, because I mean, granted, America really doesn't really have official language, but technically English is the language of business. So if
mhm.
you want to move forward, make progress, it's important to basically uh, learn and immerse yourself. I like the ideas, the things you've done. You surrounded yourself with books, and you listen to TV stations, and you listen to you read books. I think this idea of culture is like it's running like a theme so far. I've interviewed probably about 6 people so far, and it seems like it's a theme that is running. Everybody is talking about the fact that sometimes people think that keeping your culture is a negative thing, but it's actually a very positive thing. And you've just come, you're added to that same voice right now, telling us that it is good to make sure you keep some of your culture. And we'll get to some area that I will ask you a question about specifically.
Yeah.
So,
Even I want to mention that even when I watch TV, not so much now, but years ago when I have a hard time understanding movies, I will put the subtitles, but I will put the subtitles in English,
yeah,
not in Spanish, but always in English. So that will give me the opportunity to read and hear at the same time
right.
and get more familiar.
So, so I know that you have Colombia is a very interesting country, and I know you said you love your country. We all do. Wherever we came from, that's where most of our life was spent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your first friends and your first real good friends are still there most times, and there's no way you can really cut the ties, right? And you still enjoy going there. So take me through life in Colombia before your life here. Now, I know you said you grew up in a good neighborhood, a good area, and your parents were able to provide for you. But generally, how is life in Colombia compared to here?
Wow. Well, that's a good question. Well, I can tell you how life was when I was there, which I think is very different than what is now. But I mean, it was good for me. I mean, my dad worked really, 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 really hard. Actually, my dad just sent me last week a picture of him when he was little, and he wanted to show me how hard he worked. He was from a very, very poor family, and he worked really hard to get a career and to give us a better, an education and a good life. And we were not terribly rich, but we always had, a good place to live, and he paid for our education, our college. So it was good. And I got my degree in computers, and that always, I think it's one of those careers that always opens the door. I mean, if you're a decent person, but it always opens a good door. So how was life? I mean, I live in Bogota, which is the capital, and it was crazy. It's a big city, very disorganized, with a lot of noise, a lot of traffic, but also a lot of fun. A lot of events, a lot of dancing, a lot of family, friends. So it was always very busy. It was a big city lifestyle, which is very different to what I have here now, especially because I live in a small town. So it's a different, completely different environment. But I like it. I like where I am right now. It's a small city, not town, but it's a small city. It's very safe. It's very quiet, not a lot of traffic. So it's pretty good. And what I like about where I am now is that I love nature. I'm a nature person. And when I live right now, I have the beach an hour away. So if I want to go to the beach, I can be in an hour at the beach. If I want to go to the mountains, if I want to go skiing right now, I can go skiing in 45 minutes. I can be at a ski resort. If I want to go to the desert, I can drive an hour, and I'm in Palm Springs at the desert.
Wow.
And then I have LA. Well, LA depends on traffic, is an hour and a half. I have San Diego 2 hours away. So I have pretty much everything, mountain, beach, desert, just within 2 hours of where I live.
Okay.
So I love that. I have access to a lot of things nearby.
That's very good. And so when you came here, I know you came with a work visa, and did you have a lot of friends? Did you have a community? How did you build your community when you came here? How did you start building your friends so that you could? Because we know that life is really not somebody that you are independent. You can do everything by yourself. So how did you begin to build that community for yourself? Because most of your friends, like most of us, was left over from our country. In this case, you're Colombia, and you're here by yourself. And how did you begin to build your community? And
Well, I was here by myself, and not only friends, but I came by myself. So all my family, everybody's back in Colombia. So I have all my family. I have all my family in Colombia.
right,
I don't have any family here. So yeah, I came pretty much by myself. But how did I build a community? I work for a big company, a nationwide company,
uh-huh,
very open, to so there was a lot of people from all over the world, this company. So I met people from Germany. I have friends from Germany. I have friends from different places that came also as a consultants like me. And that's how I started my group. And then I met the guy that would become my husband, an ex-husband. And that was really that was my community, really.
right,
He and his family and his group of friends. So that's how I built, and which he's American.
yeah,
So that immersed me even more in the American culture, because nobody spoke Spanish. So
right,
I was surrounded, but only, people speaking English.
right,
Uh,
right. Okay, that's a very that's a good way to step into the next thing. So um, I know that for a lot of navigators, when they come, there's a people have fear of knowing what to do, and but your case is a little different. But I'm sure over the years you have um, met with people that you probably help along the way, try to find out how to figure out how to help them out. Um, so, what is one thing that you could advise people that are just here initially and said, maybe this is the kind of things you should think about? I know that a lot of people really they like to congregate with their own communities, basically their language and their people from their place. Is that something that is very helpful? And if it is, then did you find any of those groups? Did you find any of those associations when you first came to be a part of? And how has that helped you?
to be part of my people that have my roots, or people that are.
Yeah, part of your roots, like community being in the same area. Because most navigators do that. We like to be around each other and just speak our language and whatever. But maybe was that your situation? Was that your case?
No,
To find that
no,
useful?
I didn't do it because that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to immerse myself
Yeah,
in the culture. So even though I love my people, I mean, I'm very proud of who I am and where I
yeah,
come from. But that wasn't my first goal. I came here to learn about the different country, to
uh-huh,
learn about different cultures. So yeah, and because my ex-husband was American, so his family and me, so I didn't do that, which is like what a lot of people do.
yeah,
Well, like, even with the TV, I didn't want to listen to the TV speaking, Spanish speaking news or TV channels. So I did kind of the opposite that the majority of people do. I just kind of went the other side, the other
mhm.
way.
Okay, so let's turn to the other topic that I like to explore, which is um, you are you grow up in two different cultures, and how is that influence helping you? Are there some things that you kept in your culture that is so important to you that you still keep it and continue to use it, either maybe teaching it to your children? Are there some of those things that you said, you know what? I love my culture, but I'd like to get rid of this kind of this kind of things. So now I know that some people would use these two areas. They use their culture from their home country and use some American culture and create their own culture. So, what are some of those things that is so important to you that you kept from your culture? And there's some of them that you're like, no, I don't want to be a part of this, but then you're trying to merge these two to bring your kids up in a culture that you define.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that some of the things we don't have a choice. They're so into our DNA, or our way that we are brought up, that we don't have a choice. It's how we are. I'm like, and as a mother, I found myself doing the same things that my mom did to me, and I didn't even realize it. Like, you look, I'm acting like my mom. You don't even realize that, right? It's just part of who you are.
Yeah.
So I kept everything in my culture. I mean, I love the food. I love how happy people are. How we love to dance. We love to party. We love to be very active. One part that I've been working on changing is that, in my opinion, I think that the Latin cultures in general were very judgmental people. We judge people, by the class, by the clothes, by, oh, look at that person, I think there's a lot of judgment towards other people. And I've been working really hard to change that, to be more accepting of everybody and accepting of, just stop that automatic, habit of having to judge people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I know I've been working, that I want to eliminate from my life, that judgment, Everything else, I mean, I love it. My kids both learning Spanish, and both of my kids, I've been going to Colombia every year with my kids. I take them every year during the summer, and they love it. They love the culture. They love, they love how, what we are. Just
right. That is great things that you're doing there. Again, this is like a theme for since I've been interviewing people on the program. Everybody is still talking about this idea that you have to use a good thing out of your culture and use a good thing out of American culture and create your own culture and build your own community and help your kids stand out. So, talking about kids right now, you grew up in Colombia. Of course, your experience was different, and the experience of your kids is different. So, if you were to flip it, do you think coming to America is one of those decisions that you said, I don't regret it? Or do you have anything that you feel like, maybe I shouldn't have made that decision? Is this like the best decision that you've made to relocate, to come here?
One thing that I realized, I have been thinking about it, is that when I came, I was 26 years old, single, wanted to travel the world. I didn't want to have kids. I always said I don't want to have kids, period. So how my decision will affect my kids never crossed my mind, because they were not in a picture. But now that I look back, my kids don't have a family here. And that's something that I cannot regret, because I have no family here. So my kids don't have cousins, they don't have uncles. And from my side, they don't have any family here.
Right.
And my ex-husband, he's not that terribly family person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The culture is different. The American culture is different. They don't get, like the Latin that we get together all the time.
Right.
Like, if they get together 3-4 times a year, that's it. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. Those are the typical holidays. And that's it. Even though grandpa can live an hour away, they don't get together that often.
Right.
So that part, I'm sad about. Is that enough for me to go back and change my decision? Probably not.
Not really. Yeah, yeah.
But it's unfortunate that they don't have that, more family around.
Right. Well, I think the topic that you've just brought right now, it's very intriguing because one of the things that we are trying to explore here is that there are some of the navigators that are in the same situation you are, where you are married to an American and you are trying to put that culture into the marriage, and there's always this conflict about things. And one of the things we'd like to explore is that I would like navigators to know, because obviously there's going to always be cross-cultural marriages because the place is so mixed up right now, and there's always this conflict about things that you do in your culture, bringing it in here, and it's always not working. Sometimes it works okay, but it's always a point of tension, a point of confrontation, and all of that. So I understand that you said your ex-husband, but for several years you were able to live with him, and you were able to, figure out how to get over these challenges. So, what do you say how to people who are in this interracial or cross-cultural marriages? How do they succeed? Based on your experience, how do they succeed? Because this, I have heard several stories about people who were struggling because of the cultural conflicts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that probably one step is before you before you get serious. I mean, I know a lot of people are already serious, it's too late, but just talk about everything, I mean, be clear about the expectations.
Right.
For me, it was always clear for me, it was always clear for him that I will not give up my culture. That I will expect my kids to learn the language. I will expect my kids to learn about where they're coming from or where I come from. And I will expect them to have a close relationship with my family, even though they're in a different country.
Right,
So
right.
he was always clear of that. And it's so important to me that even in the divorce agreement, there's a clause that says that if one day I'm gone, it's his responsibility to make sure that my kids maintain that link with my family.
Right.
So and he was always clear about that. So that's something that you need to set expectations from the beginning, because sometimes the other person just doesn't know, because they're not used to that. So
Right.
they don't know that it's important to give me an example, to say thank you. I'm just saying an example. Well, if they don't know it, they're not going to do it not because they're bad, it's just they don't know that that's important. So I think that communication is key, share in both directions, because it goes both ways, but it's important. One thing, just a funny story, one thing that used to drive me crazy, I mean, it would make me so upset, is the American tradition, at least it was in my ex-husband's family, to throw the money, instead of handing, money to you, they will throw it to the table. And that was so offensive to me. And they didn't mean bad. It didn't mean anything to them. So like my ex-father-in-law, he would throw the money at me. And I was like, until I told him that, it really bothers me. So please don't do it anymore. So you have to be clear, what you, in both directions, go both directions.
Yeah, I think some of these little things that sometimes we don't think about, I think could be a cause of anxiety in this kind of things. And I know that for my culture, as for example, parents always like, it's expected that you take care of your parents when you grow old, right? But that is not, it doesn't seem like that's the exact same thing that happened in this culture, because there's so much, I think it's because of the way the whole society is set up. Whereas in most of the navigators coming in, the whole system is set up so that there is really no system set up, as a matter of fact, in most places. So it's expected that when your parents grow old, you should be able to, take care of them. So that could be a cause of anxiety too in this kind of relationship. I've heard some stories about that and how people have really figured out what are we gonna do. So
sometimes, you just have to give it up. Like when I just came to my mind that it drives me crazy is my kids. When I call them, they say, what? Like, well, I think it's so rude,
Right.
And so I keep telling, you say what? You say, yes, mom, or whatever. But they just don't get it. Because what is the, especially my son, he's like, because he's very kind of intellectually, like he gave me a speech, and what is wrong with that? This is just a word. So I kind of have to, that's one of those battles that, okay, pick your battles,
Right, pick your battles, exactly. Wow, that's so true. I mean, these are some of the cultures that it's, in fact, you're actually answering the next set of questions that I was going to ask you about now that you have experienced both places. What are some of the culture here that you would really like, well, I want to take this culture back to Colombia? And what are some other cultures that you would say, I don't want anybody to take this culture to anywhere? So are there things like that?
Yeah, actually I was talking to a friend, he's a police officer, and I was talking with him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was telling him that to me, I mean, I've been here in this country for 22 years, and it still amazes me and give me the butterflies to watch how people respect ambulances. There's an ambulance coming, and everybody stops and moves to the sides. And after 22 years, I see that, and I still feel the pride, how people respect that kind of things, and that's something that I would like to take back to my culture in Colombia, because people in Colombia, I mean, they will follow the ambulance, everybody will follow, nobody will stop, they will just go behind the ambulance because there's no respect, there's no respect for the public, stuff like that, or the law enforcement, there's respect to the police. And even though unfortunately, it has changed here the last couple of years with all the problems going on, there's still a lot of respect to the law enforcement people, the way it should be. So that's one thing that I will take, to my country. And one thing that I won't take, I think that this society, and I don't know if it's worldwide, but at least here, is, in my opinion, too much of a soft society. You can't say anything because people get offended, like little kids, everybody gets a medal if they participate. There's no, because they're going to get traumatized, that's how life is. You don't win, and we have to learn to deal with that. So that's something and there's a lack of respect to older people, I think, in general. I mean, I see it here, even with my kids, sadly enough, it's a completely different, I don't know how it is in Colombia now. I think it's also different than when I was there, but I don't think it's as bad as it is here now. There's no respect to older people. There's no respect to the community. There's no respect to, like, for example, just want to make this comment. I just read with that, with the shutdown, the government shutdown, I'm near Joshua Trees. Have you heard of it's a national park, Joshua Trees? Mm-hmm. A beautiful, amazing place. And because there was no employees working there, the place was completely trashed, and people were cutting the trees, and they were just littering and destroying. That's so painful, that people, because there's not somebody there controlling them, people will just go and destroy these trees that are like, years old, they're like, they're unique in the world, and and people just will go and cut them and burn them. And that's the kind of culture that is not good, that culture that, because I can get away with it, I'm going to go and do it.
Right.
And that's very sad right now. We need that place culture-wise that is like that.
Thanks for listening to the Nadvigators Podcast today. We've enjoyed listening to the transformative journey of our guest today. Be sure to check out the show notes for additional content from this episode. The concluding story of our guest, Liliana Rogers, will be available in episode 14. Be sure to check it out. If you've made it this far, I will take that you like what we are doing here. In return, I will appreciate if you would leave us a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. I will really appreciate your feedback and support. Please subscribe while you are there. I look forward to catch you on the next episode. Remember, none of us is smarter than all of us, and be good to people you meet on your way up.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Nadvigators Podcast, Navigating the American Dream with Bassey Simon. For more information about our stories, our guests, or how to get involved and share your Nadvigating story, head over to our website at nadcast.com. That's NADCAST.com for more information. Continue the conversation on Facebook.com/Nadvigators. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast listening platform so others can find us and enjoy the show too.